Right, so I'm going to talk to you guys real quick about doing your drum brakes on your on your VW bus. Kind of how they work and the important things to remember. A lot of people think about things that aren't that important with them. I was going to get it up there so you could look at it better. But there's a few things to know if you are going to run drum brakes. And some of the things that I would highly recommend if you're now with the disc brake kits available, that you just upgrade it to disc brakes. Especially if you're in a big city. If you're in the country, you can drive a VW bus as your daily driver. If you're somewhere where there's no big cities, you don't have to worry about going to the freeway much. Not a lot of traffic. Those are the big issues with driving one of these as a daily driver. But when you're in big cities, it's just really, not safe. And if you are in a big city, I highly recommend going to disc brakes. But if you are going to go with drum, maybe you've already got the parts, maybe you've got most of the parts already, and you're just going to go with it for now, maybe upgrade them later. Here's a couple things to know. Number one, this brake line right here needs to be bent just right. You see how this one's really tight to the wheel cylinder, and it's bent and goes around and then comes up here. It needs to be very, very, very tight to that wheel cylinder. The reason why is because when you flip your drum over, it can rub right here. This one wasn't rubbing here, but you can see it was very close. It was like probably when we were taking off the wheel, it probably rubs it. That's how it's really, really close to that part of the drum. So, and if it rubs against there for any period of time, it's gonna wear a hole in. I don't know how many of these I saw when I was working on these when they were newer, that had no brakes in the front just because that had rubbed against the line. So that's number one. Another thing to remember on these is you should measure your drum from here to here, okay, and make sure that it's within specification. So you're going to have to look that up on your own. I don't have the specs here, for each bus. There's different, I believe, on the 2 years, on the early and late. I'm not sure. I think it was just the width, actually. It might be just the width. But the actual distance from here to here needs to be within specification. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I don't care if my drums are thin. It's not about the thickness of your drum. It's about the circumference size. So if your circumference size is bigger, okay, the larger circumference, what happens is, and you'll see that this bus here was within specification, you see that the shoe, what'll happen is because it's a larger circumference, the shoe will only touch from here to here in the middle, and it will never touch on the outer edges. So, and sometimes when you just put on a brand new set of brakes, you need to wear them in. You really have to get them worn in on one of these, and then readjust them. So you let them wear in, and it'll start touching at first, usually in the middle of the shoe, and then or sometimes it'll be at the top or the bottom, and it'll wear itself to where it wears in and the whole shoe touches the drum. So when your brakes are out of spec and your drums are too large, what happens is before it even gets worn out here, the shoes are not touching all the way from end to end. So that's why it's really important to have them working right. So, and because, look at how much a set of drums are. They're really, really expensive. They're not cheap. On whatever, $100 if you get good ones. And you get the cheap ones, what happens with the cheap drums is the thickness here, from here to the other end, to this end, okay, is thinner. And what happens is your lug nut starts to strip out. So those are all things you need to keep in mind, that if you get the cheaper drum, it's going to get you at some point. That's usually the case on those. Sometimes the castings are wrong too. Sometimes this part's, oblong or something like that, and it's rubbing. But those are the main things to watch. Putting your springs on is pretty self-explanatory. You notice they're on the inside. They're not on the outside. They're on the inside behind. So I put the springs on first, and then I grab this with a pair of pliers and I pry it out and then put my shoes on. Actually, I do it from this end here. The adjuster side, I just grab it with a pair of pliers right here and then just pull them out and then put them in place. So you put your springs on ahead of time and then put them in afterwards. So that's the thing to look at. Now, you've got, so if you add up this, now let's go over this disc brake thing real quick. Some of you guys are like, oh, I don't need disc brakes, you know. Well, these drums, they stop pretty good, and they do stop pretty good. The problem is these all came with early ones came with a single reservoir master. So now if you lose fluid to one of the wheels, that you're going to have a complete brake failure. Where if you have it the other way with the dual reservoir master, you'll only have one section in the front or the rear that goes out. So one of the things that just became available now is the disc brake kits for our, not just more affordable. The reason I didn't go with them originally with this is they didn't have a good one for the 14s, that I could run the 14s that didn't give me a, that gave me a weird offset or something had, you know, I had to narrow my beam, or there's always those issues. And so now they have the AC Industries ones. Again, if you're just watching this video and you're not one of my regular subscribers that watches all my videos, you might, you know, this might be repetitive for you if you are, but if you call Eddie and Dave's Garage, you're going to get a special price. I can't give you the price over the, you know, over the internet or anything. He can't post it anywhere. You have to call him. And so call him specifically. He doesn't always answer the phone. Leave a message. It's really important that you know that. He doesn't always answer the phone. He's got 2 different jobs. He has a business. You know, he's a busy guy, but he will get them done for you as soon as, he's very, very good at getting things done. So he will give you a really good price on those. So almost what you're going to pay, let's say you go with a new dual reservoir master because you want to update, you know, to make it safer. Even if you're going to run drums, by the time you buy the shoes and you say you get German wheel cylinders, and let's say you need 2 new drums, you're going to be almost there. You're almost right at the same price as you are with some serious stopping power. The difference in stopping power is I mean, these stop pretty good, okay? I'm not going to say that they don't. In the 66, 64 to 68 stop okay, but they do, you lose, you don't get near the control while you're stopping that you do with disc brakes. You know, the drum brakes can tend to skid easier. They'll stop fine. They can, you know, it's harder to control that edge, where if you have disc brakes, you can be right on the edge of skidding, and it's easier to keep it there and be able to not skid. So that's actually safer, you know, and they don't get hot as fast. So because they have the vents in the rotors, they just work better. And you know, that's the reason why all the cars now have disc brakes. So if you're driving on the highways and stuff like that, you know, if you're driving on the freeway a lot, you're getting into traffic, especially when you're getting into traffic, because all of a sudden traffic can just stop all of a sudden for no reason. You really are a really, really good idea to have disc brakes. And if you're going straight axle in the rear, absolutely go disc brakes, because you're running a bug drum in the back. So now you've got a smaller, less stopping power in the rear, and you need to upgrade the front to make up for it. So anyway, that's just a little about drum brakes. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.